Hello there, welcome back. Alistair here from the de Havilland Aircraft Museum. You find us today in one of our great treasures. This is the fuselage of the Comet 1A, a very significant aeroplane for the museum and for de Havilland as a whole. De Havilland were the first company in the world to produce a jet-powered airliner in 1949 with 4 de Havilland Ghost engines. They even built the engines themselves. This was Britain's first step into the jet age in civil aviation, and it was the first civil airliner, the jet-powered civil airliner in the world. Now, up till then, through the war and just after the war, if you'd flown on an airliner, you were basically flying in a converted transport aircraft or a converted bomber even. They were slow, they were noisy, they were pretty horrible, they vibrated because of the piston engines and so forth. It really wasn't a pleasant journey at all, but the Comet changed all of that. They were fast, they were smooth, they were quiet, they flew very high, they were luxurious. It was really the Concorde of its day, and people just loved them. They first came into service 1952 with BOAC, British Overseas Airways Corporation, and the passengers just adored them. Journey times around the world were just halved. It was brilliant. Then they started to have problems. There were a couple of crashes on takeoff, and that was sorted out by a minor technical fix. Everything was wonderful until 1954 when 2 Comets were lost, both coincidentally taking off from Rome Airport. And one in January, one in April 1954, both lost with all on board by virtue of just having disintegrated over the Mediterranean somewhere. Major crash investigation, obviously major accident investigation. The wreckage was dredged up and brought back to Farnborough to be analysed. Aircraft were put into trials, into testing. They built a special test tank full of water at Farnborough to test the whole aircraft and see how it responded to the stresses of flight. And they found that the problem was, as these things often are, a combination of various factors. First of all was the skin of the aircraft. Now, early jet engines weren't terribly powerful, and so the company was desperate to save weight wherever possible, and so the aircraft was designed to be as lightweight as possible. The skin of this aircraft is only the thickness of a credit card, so it's very, very thin indeed. The second problem was the fact, originating from the fact that, as you know, you fly on a modern airliner today, they're pressurised inside so that you can breathe comfortably when the aircraft is up at altitude. You do that to an aircraft, you're pressurising it inside, then you're depressurising it when it lands. Do the same again the next flight, and again and again. Eventually, you're basically causing repeated cyclic stress to the airframe, and that can only end badly if the airframe has a weakness. And the weakness in the Comet was the windows. If you look at the windows, this is the early Mark I Comet, you'll see that the windows are square. Now, square things, of course, have corners, and there's a little trick you can do. Try this at home if you want. If you take a piece of paper with a square hole cut in it, and if you put it under stress, just pull the sides like that, it will always tear at the corners. And when they did the experiments with the Comet fuselage in the test rig at Farnborough, they found that's exactly what happened. They found that the airframe failed, the fuselage skin failed at the corners of the windows. And when they looked at the wreckage of the one they brought up from the Mediterranean, the aircraft that actually crashed in service, they found there was a square opening in the top of the fuselage which had cracked, and that was what caused it. So the aircraft was redesigned with doing away with the square windows, with round windows this time, with a thicker fuselage skin, and that solved the problem, and the Comets remained in service for many, many years after that in later forms, and they were a very, very successful aircraft. Tragically, though, the only way to learn about aircraft fatigue and about aircraft design for this new type of aircraft was through these very tragic events that happened in 1954. De Havilland shared all their information in the interest of flight safety and passenger safety. They shared all their information with other manufacturers. Other manufacturers, of course, took note of this, and they designed their first generation jet airliners without the faults that unfortunately the first Comets had. I say this is one of our pride and joy because this is the only Comet airliner in the world that has the original square windows. We have the only surviving Comet 1 with the original windows right here. When we got it, this was one of the aircraft that was due to be tested at Farnborough in the 1950s, and it never was. It was stripped down to a bare shell inside with nothing else in it, and it stayed at Farnborough untested until the mid-1980s when it came to the museum. And everything you see, you can walk into this aircraft when you come to visitors, everything you see, you'll see inside has been put in by our own restoration team volunteers. So it really is a bit of a masterwork, really. All the upholstery, all the seating, the floor, they're working on the galley and the flight deck at the front now. So it's quite a piece of work, actually. I do hope you'll enjoy it when you come and see us eventually. So thanks for watching. That's the Comet.
Can we dedicate this one to our Leslie?
And we can dedicate this one, thanks Steph, we can dedicate this to our very own Leslie Kaiser, who is something of a fan of the Comet and has emailed in to ask if we could do this. Leslie, thanks for everything you do at the museum. Hope you're keeping well. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well, stay in touch. Bye for now.